and obviously everyone knows who she is. So, Nicole, you, RFK Jr., Bobby, you have chosen to endorse Donald Trump. Everyone's thrilled about that. What thrills me most is speaking about health and speaking about big pharma,
Yep.
because this is something that when I look at the pilled out levels of America, it floors me. And we don't talk enough about it, about how that's, you walk in the doctor's office, he's just waiting to write you a prescription for something. Talk about it.
Yeah, I had an experience where I met with a former EMT, and he said what changed his life was going into homes across the country and seeing kitchens full of prescription pills and nothing in the refrigerator. Empty refrigerators. That's the state of this country right now. Empty refrigerators and pill bottles. That's sad. Breaks my heart. We can't live like this in this country anymore. We deserve better.
Nicole, why is it this way here and not this way? And everyone knows I'm the ultimate ugly American. I like my country best, but it's not. Every time you turn on the television, if you go overseas, every other commercial is not big pharma commercial. We don't watch a ton of TV, but if it's ever on in the background, it's every commercial. It wasn't even like that when I was a kid. I'm not ancient. I'm 43. How and when did this happen?
Yeah, and it's also being glorified as well, that the American healthcare system has these shiny hospitals that a child is exiting after their leukemia treatment. And it's glorified. And, it is great. Yes, if we can recover children, of course, we want that ability. But why do we have so many sick people in this country? I just spoke to the EPA this morning. There's a big group of people, scientists out there for 10 years now. They've been trying to get them to stop glyphosate spraying in harvest. So, farmers will use glyphosate throughout the crop cycle, but a practice that we do here in the United States that's banned in Europe is pre-harvest desiccation, which is spraying the crops to kill the weeds, to loosen the crops so that they're easier to harvest. But the problem with that is the residues. The glyphosate residues don't have time to dry out and dissipate. So we're eating heavy loads of glyphosate. And we're, chatting with the EPA this morning. I zoomed in. Mm-hmm. I was virtual, but the rest of the group was there in person. And for 10 years, this group has been telling the EPA about this. And for 10 years, the EPA has failed to act. This is one of the easiest things we could change. Very easy. And they refuse to act.
Don't you hate Zoom? I can't do it. I know we all Zoom everything now, but it's so impersonal. I'm talking over people the whole time. I despise it.
Well, there's Zoom etiquette. I could coach you on that. Okay. But, it's I'm a mom, and Zoom's been great for being able to be at home and also run a business. I'm an active venture investor, and and I think there's a lot of good to Zoom, but I think you're right. Getting out there and having that personal connection is so important, which is why the lockdowns devastated the human experience so much. People got sick, not because of COVID, but from the spiritual dissecting that we've had. Humans need each other. They also need nature. They need to walk barefoot outside. They need to touch grass. And what they did to humans during the pandemic, no amount of Zoom could make up for. And you're right, it is. There's, Zoom serves a purpose. It's a tool, but to be the exclusive way of communicating, which is how it got so big, was during the pandemic. It's not good.
No, it didn't work out for Jeffrey Toobin. So speaking of nature and sunshine and things like that, you mentioned COVID, and you keep coming back to this. I'm shocked at what happened to our medical institutions. We actually have a wonderful doctor about 10 feet away from us who was scorned for treating patients with things that worked for patients. Mm-hmm. If you were a doctor who spoke out against things, against the insanity of it. You were shunned. They tried to ruin your career. In many cases, they did ruin your career.
Yeah.
If you were a doctor who towed the party line, get your 19th booster shot, sorry about your stroke, then you were still making money to this day, and we've never had a reckoning. Are we ever going to get one?
You know, I think that there is a lot going on right now that is very optimistic, in my opinion, about being able to address these very egregious harms, the censorship of qualified experts, the deplatforming of qualified experts, some of the top experts in the world. And this is not like Andy Wakefield, who was 25 years ago canceled for publishing a paper on MMR and autism and gut inflammation. He was one of like 3 doctors that were canceled. COVID-19 was a mass canceling of doctors. And there were tens of thousands of qualified voices that were silenced. Just the Great Barrington Declaration by Jay Bhattacharya. I mean, he's had tens of thousands of experts sign that document. And Washington Post will say, I was interviewed by a journalist, asked me, why would you align yourself with that? And I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, that is a group of very important experts that are providing a dissenting opinion. Dissenting opinions are part of American culture. Our Supreme Court, we have dissenting opinions. This is very, very important to hear those dissenting opinions in light of the dominating opinion. Even if it is not the one that the government chooses, we still have to hear them.
Amen. Nicole, it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure.